And welcome to the Superintendent and CEO of Schools' first critical conversation with teachers for the 2022-2023 school year. This is an opportunity for our teachers first-year teachers, to share and exchange some critical information with the superintendent and district administrators. So we welcome you. As you can see, the agenda is very long, isn't it? No, it's abbreviated tonight so we can hear from you. The whole goal of the superintendent is to make sure that we listen to you and we utilize this as an opportunity to support you in your endeavors. So without further delay and to be cognizant of your time, I will toss it to our illustrious leader, our superintendent and CEO of schools, Dr. Morcease J. Beasley.
Thank you, Julian. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. We thought we'd just do a critical conversation just for new teachers, because you all always give us an earful. Well, it's good to see all of you. I know it's been going rather quickly since the first day of school, and I'm sure you've got a lot you've got to get done even this evening. So I wanted to be respectful of your time and really just share with you that really the purpose of this meeting, this conversation, is to hear from you. I want to know, how is it really going out there? You know, I get a lot of different perspectives, and this is one of the perspectives that I value and that we try to get on an annual basis, and oftentimes more than one time throughout the year. So I want you to relax. Not only am I here, but we also have members of the expanded and core cabinet who serve as directors, assistant directors, assistant supes, deputy superintendents, etc. They're here as well, because as you share concerns, we want to make sure that we're listening and that we're being responsive to those concerns. As you well know, we have a challenge in K-12 education with not only recruiting, but also retaining, and the pool of teachers is dwindling. And it's important. It's important to us that we do what we can to provide a supportive environment for you, an environment wherein you feel like you're getting the resources that you need in order to do the job that you need to do for your students. I do know that the first year is probably one of the most challenging years as a teacher. It does get easier. Never so easy that it becomes a cakewalk, but you develop certain skill sets and experiences, and you learn how to respond to things a little bit more differently as you matriculate in K-12 education. And so we really want to hear from you. I want to know, where are you? How's it going? And if you could give us a perspective as to why you are glad you're here, and what will it take in order for you to stay in K-12 education? Even if you decide to go in a different role, what would it take for you to stay here in K-12 education? We hire about, Alicia, 400, 500 new teachers every year.
Yes.
And we have about 3,200 new teachers. So within 5 years, it's like we're just hiring, we're turning over an entire teaching force. And that's one of the challenges that we have here in Clayton County, here in the metro area, because they have so many options. And pay is always a consideration, and we don't get as much taxes as Atlanta, and some people love all the money Atlanta gets, and so they jump from Clayton to Atlanta, and when they get to Atlanta, they don't like the superintendent, they jump right on back. Or they'll go here and there, and so we deal with that a lot here in Clayton County, but we're trying to, the pandemic has impacted our efforts a little bit more, but we had gotten it down to less than 100 vacancies a year, but we're still hiring, I would say, new teachers, that number every year, even though the vacancy issue was being addressed, and we had managed it down to about 100, but now it seems to be spiking upward because of the pandemic. And we want you to stay even through the pandemic. We want you to stay here in Clayton County Public Schools. So let's hear from you. I think we've got a microphone, Jada. I want to hear how's it going. Just feel free to introduce yourself. This is a safe space, and we're here to help and support. And of course, to inform ourselves so we'll know how to support you in what areas we need to be working on.
Okay, we have a few options. If you raise your hand, I will come to you with the microphone. We do have 2 additional mic stands available for if you wish to come down to the front and exercise your question through that means. But otherwise, if you would like to pose your question, I can come to you.
Now, if you don't have questions, I can always give you my topics that you want me to discuss.
I'm assuming she means me.
That's right.
So how y'all doing?
Well.
My name is Chris Coggins. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up and went to school here in Clayton County, elementary school, middle school, and high school, right across the street at Mount Zion High School. I'm a 7th grade math teacher at Jonesboro Middle School. I think you said, how's it going so far? It's going great. I love being here. I love teaching people who come from the same background as me. I like seeing them grow. And I honestly, I even like the days when they're just kind of rough and they come into class and just being themselves. So my overall experience is great. I have a great support team at Jonesboro Middle School. I have a great coach, math coach. I have a great mentor. They're really good about making sure I'm prepared for the classroom. I think she's learning how to do lesson plans, making sure that I'm on board with my classroom management, and then also making sure that I'm aware about developmental opportunities. So my overall first year experience, it's only been a few months, but it's very pleasing to me. What keeps me here, and that was one of the other questions, what keeps me here? Number one is the children. Like I said, I'm from here, I love this area. That's why I chose Clayton County to teach in. Also the administration team at Jonesboro Middle School. Very inviting. They have made sure that everything that I need, I have. Everything that I don't know is easy for me to find. And that I have had a warm welcome since I came here to Jonesboro Middle School. What keeps me here? What we're retaining employees. I think that was another question we had. What we're retaining is competitive pay is always attractive to anyone in the job market. I think y'all know that. Also, it's a good work environment. I think that's like the number one thing is having a great work environment, having an administration who supports you and has your back and is trying to develop you and continuously trying to develop you and also having some patience with you while you grow. That has been a very determining factor that what keeps me at Jonesboro Middle School. And I think that it would be very hard for me to leave having that type of administration and coaching and mentorship around me. I think what also will retain other employees or get other employees to come here, I think one of the things I did say was competitive pay, having that great relationship, and then continuing to have that visibility surrounding further opportunities or more development for professional development.
Very good. Thanks for sharing. Sounds like you're off to a great start.
Thank you so much. Excellent feedback. Are there any others? Sure there are. Thank you.
Do I have to stand? No, you can stand if you like. Just tell us your name and the school you're affiliated with. Sorry.
Denise Shaver, I'm at ABA, the high school social studies teacher at Jonesboro Virtual Academy.
He did it so well. Did he have a prompt or it just was all natural? He just down. Did she say that he have a prompt? You would listen to that's attention.
I just started like everybody else. I love it. I love working at the alternative school. I feel like that's a place where you can really make a difference. I love working with students where this is like their last chance, and you can really touch them because of the intimate setting. And so I really appreciated our new principal. I'm new too, but she's new. I think she's doing a great job, and it's like a little family. It's very supportive of everybody. So I think that's great. So my observation has nothing to do with Clayton County. So did everybody hear that? It's nothing to do with Clayton County. But I do always had this passion, even before I returned to K-12, why overall
educators, teachers get such low pay comparative to every other field and discipline. So my question is the field of education, are they advocating for comparable pay for professionals? I mean, it's really such a shame that there is no other field where you can have a graduate degree and come out and make what we make. And it's almost as if, does anybody know what teachers do? I mean, what do they think that, you know? So is the field of education, are they really advocating for us? And I think we really need to get, I heard Georgia, I just moved to Georgia too, got some benefits for the COVID pay. But are we going to get compensated like nurses? Because we're first responders.
Yeah, your question is who's is anyone advocating? I think educators here are going to have to start really getting more politically engaged and advocating for themselves. Currently, I know in Georgia, our pay, of course, we receive state funds and local funds. And local funds are based upon property values. Property values vary from community to community, county to county. So let's say Atlanta has 50,000 children, we have 50,000. We have more than them, but let's just say for the sake of the discussion that we have the same number of children. Because of the property taxes, we may get, let's say, I'll just use a number, 200 million, but they may get 600 million. And so they are well positioned to offer higher levels of pay. Now, all of us get a certain amount according to the state scale. The state gives everyone a certain amount according to the state salary scale. But then if you have additional funds, you can add to that scale, right? So in Atlanta is able to add to that scale possibly more than a Clayton, right? Because we have some of the lower property values in the metro area. Not as many businesses, and of course not as many properties, residential properties that are of a high-end value. And so that impacts how we can pay our employees, and teachers in particular, since that's who you're asking about. Now, we have studied the metro salaries with our compensation work that we're doing. We have improved the salaries over the years. But what happens when Clayton bumps up its salaries? Everybody else what? Bumps up their salary. So we still have that inequity, don't we? And so what has to happen is politically, there has to be a restructuring of how we fund K-12 education. And that requires us to be politically engaged and voting individuals who are going to make this a priority. I think the reason that it's not a priority as much as it could be is because you give people a $2,000 raise in the middle of the pandemic, you get their vote, you get reelected, but you don't do anything else about it. And we allow that. We allow that. We allow that, and we've got to stop allowing that. There's no reason that you have to stay in education 30 years with a PhD just to get to $99,000. There's no reason that a first-year teacher should be in the mid-70s so they can at least afford a nice apartment paying $1,800 a month. And those are the challenges that we're sharing with our elected officials so that they can make this a priority. And we can keep trying to bump up, 1% COLA. That's fine. But we need a significant change in how we fundamentally collect funds in order to ensure that we offer competitive salaries. And our current structure, in my opinion, is just insufficient.
Is it okay if I respond or ask? So, and that's why I said it's really not a Clayton County, because I know that the pay structure is based on property values, and it's not specific. So
I guess my question is, as administrators and superintendents, not just in Georgia, is there a vehicle or mechanism for you all to collaboratively push, now that there's such a teacher crisis, to leverage the crisis to require, competitive pay right across the board, and to argue and advocate for commensurate compensation for what we do and for our education and our field. So
I think there are structures in place. I don't see them being leveraged to do that though, because states are different. Some states have unions, some are right-to-work states. Pay varies from New York, from Atlanta. And so I don't see a collective effort, even though we have national organizations, we have state organizations. I don't see a collective effort because every state has its own political leaders, its own priorities, its own issues, etc. So I don't see a combined collective effort to really address teacher pay. And one reason it could be because in our U.S. Constitution, the right for, or the responsibility for education is left up to the what? States. In other places beyond America, it's a federal approach. We don't even address education. We don't take on education as a responsibility at the federal level because it's delegated to the what? States. And that's basically how does that impact funding? The only funding we get from Washington relative to education is our federal Title I, Title II funds. And that's normally directed toward children, who are in poverty or defined as benefiting from free and reduced lunch. So we've got a whole system that has been structured, and I think is causing a lot of the challenges that we're trying to solve, which is impacting teacher availability, people who are no longer willing to come into the field because of the pay, because of the other challenges, etc. See, all of these things work together. And sometimes we say, oh, we want to improve, but you got a whole system. You can improve here and there, but until you fundamentally change that financial structure, we'll be having these conversations.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angela Frazier. I am at Mundiesville Middle School, and I love it. I have been there as a substitute teacher for off and on for about 2.5 years, and they make me feel like I am a part of the family. And now I am a life science teacher there, teaching 7th grade. And I love it. Now the children are a little challenged.
We do know this.
They can be a challenge, but I really, really enjoyed everyone there. They act as if I've already been a teacher there forever because I was a sub there so often. So they make me feel like I'm right at home. So I just want to say I really love being in the county, and I don't think I want to go anywhere else either.
That's good. That's good. We're glad to have you. Mundiesville, glad to have you. All right, I want to hear from somebody who's not loving it at all. It's like, yeah, that's not my experience. Not loving it. Give it up. I'm not saying that's how you feel.
No, that's not. I'm Anthony Davis. This is my first year in Clayton County. I'm at Lovejoy High. I came from Henry County. I love the kids. I love the kids, which is why I'm in it. I'm in chaos. I'm in chaos. The building is chaotic. It's so much, it's a lot of kids in that school. It's a lot of kids. I just don't think there's enough, or the admin is trained enough to handle all of it. It's very chaotic. The students kind of run the school. They have some teachers that, like, the kids they know, who to obey and whatnot. but it's when we're asking for help from the admins, you're nowhere to be found. And the kids, they have an Instagram page, where is such and such, we haven't seen them in 7 days. And that's a problem when you can't find the admins and they're nowhere in the building. They're not being present enough for the kids and the faculty. So it's the support.
Your first year at Lovejoy High School,
Yeah, this is my 8th year teaching.
can you share why you decided to leave Henry and go to Lovejoy?
I left Henry County because I don't want to offend anybody. These people don't value us. They don't value our kids. And I can't agree with something that I'm not agreeing with. Like, when you don't support our kids and you don't support us in the need where we need to. And I keep telling people, they're building up those neighborhoods, but it's now where our people are able to afford those houses and putting our kids in these schools. But those people are not willing to adapt to change and cater and meet the needs of our students. I'm not sure if you guys, if anybody watched Luella High School's graduation ceremony last year. There was a student who, and he spoke very well, and he made that very aware that our people are not valued. So I couldn't agree to stay in that county.
Thank you
That was
for
one of the
sharing your
reasons why.
perspective. And we hope that you feel like here in Clayton County, we hear your concern about Lovejoy, that we value all children and all people, all perspectives. That is our expectation. That's who we are as people and as leaders here in Clayton County Public Schools. So thank you for being here. Let's see what we can do to make it better.
She can come to Monday's meal.
Now, I love the kids. I love the kids. I love the kids. They are very well. People say, "Oh, you went to Clayton County." I love the kids. I've always been this for the kids. I'm a math and science certified teacher, which people ask me why I teach. I teach because of the kids. But I feel as if those that are higher than I am should be able to also meet the needs of those kids and be very present. People laugh about it. They laugh about the Instagram page, but it's really not funny when the kids don't know where the admins are, or the kids don't know who's an admin and who's not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Absolutely. Excuse my reach.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vonda Shands. The gray hair, they're real. I know the young people like to dye their hair gray, but this is real. I was retired sitting at home, right here in Rex. And I kept hearing in the news that, there was a teacher shortage. And I don't know, they said, well, if you come back, we'll give you a little extra. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, let me come on back. And I've lived in Clayton County since '95. My son has come through the Clayton County school system. And I'm like, let me give a little bit back. And now I'm at Riverdale High School. I love Riverdale High School. Okay, I love my department. I am a science teacher. I teach, right now I'm teaching environmental science. The kids are kids. They're they're teenagers, extremely teenagers. And they need everything we have pushing forward. I'm very concerned as, I still consider myself retired. Okay, that young people are walking into the profession that I have loved for 30 years. And there was an old story, the battle was lost for the want of a nail. We have too many nails that are sending our young people out of here. It's not only children, they're not saying, oh, the children are running around. That might be a contributing factor, but we need to figure out how we can keep people in this profession, because if done right, it is the best profession in the world. I have people that I have taught, that I have been taught with, and that is the greatest reward. When I'm out there and I'm listening, you better not say anything to Michelle. She was my teacher. And I'm over there, like, baby, leave him alone. But we need to get a handle on it. I have loved Clayton County so far. And like with all school systems, there are things that, I worked with Fulton for most of my years that, we can improve on, but I think Clayton gets a lot of things right, okay? And that's just my opinion. I just wanted to say that. And I'm glad to be back in the classroom, because I missed it.
That perspective is appreciated. We're glad that you're teaching science at Riverdale High School and you're loving it. Those kids, they do need you. And we should use this as an opportunity to say you're retired, you're still getting your retirement income, plus you're also able to get the full salary of a teacher, right? Isn't that a good thing? Yes. The laws have changed, right?
When they cut up and act up, you don't act scared. I'm not going to be scared.
At the benefit of 30 years experience.
I'm scared of them. I'm scared of them.
Okay, hi.
Hello.
My name is Jasmine Freeman. I'm the new co-director of dance at Stillwell School of the Arts, right up there. And I really love where I am. I'm fresh out of grad school. I was in grad school last year. But I'm just appreciative to be in a space where I'm supported. I came from a charter school where I worked with older Black women who kind of made my life very difficult on a daily basis. So to have principals who check on me through text, through email, asking me what my needs are, I just feel very supported by the county, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. Obviously, like with me being young, there is the disadvantage though with these children. And they think that because I'm 24 that I don't have 2 degrees in dance. So I have to remind them respectfully, that I'm still an adult. So, I mean, besides that just respective, barrier, they're definitely learning fast and quickly, and I've got good reviews so far. So I just want to just network with them.
Glad to have you. Listen, I was 24 with a master's teaching high school.
So you know.
Big deal.
So you know.
Keep up the good work.
Okay.
Every year gets better, you get a little older.
That's what it is.
Anyone else? All right, let's take this approach. If you could identify, hi, you go.
I'm Dr. Darrell Banks. First time here in the district teaching here. Last year I was teaching in North Carolina, so let me give you some perspective. I came here and Cobb County offered me $45,000 more than I make in North Carolina.
In North, you said Cobb County offered you $45,000 more than you made in North Carolina as a teacher.
As a teacher. And then I came here, you offered less. But I came here because my sister's here.
Dr. Reed is
and because they have an aviation program and I'm a pilot. So my
did we offer much less than Clayton did Cobb?
Say that again?
Did we offer you much less than Cobb?
15 grand.
15 grand?
Which is a lot.
That is a lot.
But what I want to do is create more black pilots. So we're going to have the kids that, I'm at North Clayton High School, we're going to have these kids up in the air flying.
That's what's up.
We shouldn't have to do that at $15,000 less than Cobb.
Well,
That's one of the districts. That's one of the districts that we have compared ourselves to. We noticed they have a strategy that they seem to hire and pay more for more experience, right? And so we noticed that sometimes our more experienced teachers, when they leave, they're going to places like Cobb and others. And we train them up well, but then we lose them. The other districts get the benefit of our training and work and support. So that's why we got to work on this compensation thing, close that gap. Okay? Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here at North Clayton High School. Who was next? I'm sorry. Okay, so if you could identify, I'll give you just about 30 seconds to reflect on this. If you could identify one thing that if it could just be fixed overnight, that you think would significantly improve this work environment for you, what would it be? I'll give you a second or two to think about it. Even though it sounds like many of you are having a positive experience, I know that's not everyone's experience. So what would it be? Just feel free to just raise your hand and share what that one thing would be.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Robinson. I'm also at Lovejoy High School. This is my first year at Lovejoy, but I've been with Clayton County about 12 years. I was at Lovejoy High School in the cafeteria, and I just worked my way through the system. I was there when Dr. Cole was the principal at Lovejoy. I have 2 kids that graduated from Lovejoy, so when I got my degree, it's just naturally that if I go to a high school, it has to be Lovejoy or Wildcat. But to answer your question, I think safety and security would be a big issue for me. When we go, and I'm speaking more on the high school level, I drove school buses for a long time, but some of the things that I've encountered at the high school now versus before when I worked at high school, I've never seen stuff like that. I've been threatened by a student, and you try to call administration, the phone doesn't work in the classroom. You try to call from your cell phone, you may or may not have a signal, or they don't answer the phones in the office. We have to figure out a way to make sure, I don't think compensation is the only reason why we can't retain teachers, educators. At the high school level, there's so much going on. The schools are constantly on the news, or like she said, you see the stuff on the Instagram pages from the different schools, kids getting stabbed, guns getting into schools. You see the kids opening the side doors for students that haven't been through the metal detectors. We need to feel safe when we go into our work environment. Because nobody's going to keep going to a building where they don't feel like they're going to make it back home to their own kids that evening. No matter how much we love the kids, we have to be safe. I would like to see if there were more officers in the school. Yes, we have administration, but they can only do so much. If we had more police officers in the school, I think Lovejoy has maybe 4. But you got over 1,000 kids in that school. What are 4 officers going to do when you have that many kids? And you have a fight on 900 hallway, in the cafeteria, in the parking lot, and on 1100 hallway at the same time. At that point, everybody's scattered, and it's just chaos. So what are we going to do to not only make the kids feel safe and the parents feel safe to send the kids back to school, but make your educators feel safe to make them want to come to work?
So when you say safety, are you saying that basically the disrespect, the demeanor of the children and the way they interact with each other and the adults that creates that feeling that it's just not a safe environment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Like she said, when we call for admins or anything, when the fights happen, yeah, teachers are around, but of course, when it's a big fight, and you try to call the office, like you said, the phones don't work, or they're not gonna answer the phone, or no admin is around, or they're sitting in one of the admin's offices all together. And so, like, I literally had to knock on the door, like, hey, can y'all patrol the hallway? No instruction is going on. If I got 2 groups of students standing outside my door, I'm gonna go to class. But I'm calling the front office and I can't get y'all.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other responses to one thing that if we could change today that significantly impact the culture of the district in a positive way? Your willingness to even stay and continue to provide your services to our children and to our county.
So I know that you all, thank you, providing adequate compensation is too much of a big thing, but some of the other less expensive incentives go a long way. I know that Perry, they do a good job at showing appreciation to the teachers. So that's good, but even smaller things, you know, can teachers get discounts, you know, when they go to stores? I remember when COVID hit and, you know, they were giving nurses discounts at hotels, and I was like, wait, again, teachers are frontline workers. We are essential workers. We weren't affording any of those. So even if the county could help, you know, with discounts or, you know, cards that aren't going to be as expensive, but things that can help to compensate for what we do.
And we do have, now we have community and employee engagement. I know Ms. Rice is really working with partners to make sure and compiling all these opportunities for staff to receive discounts and things of that nature throughout our county. But you know, we really do have to go and ask. And they gotta be willing to do it. But I do think that I've observed that as well, even when I go to Lowe's and they ask, are you military? I'm thinking, no, I'm not military, but I'm an educator. Or why don't they ask for military or education?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone else? So by show of hands, how many of you think, okay.
This is just a question. I know at the beginning of the school year in Fulton County, they swore that phones were going to disappear and they're going to make those kids, you know, put those phones away from, and I don't know how it's gone. I don't think it's gone well. But, you know, just better, you know, advertise to those parents that these kids have devices and that there's too much time spent, you know, pulling phones away, or I'll give you extra points if you give me your phone so you can learn, okay? But, you know, just getting more support as far as, you know, use the technology you were given and not the, you know, the one that you're on TikTok with.
And that's an ongoing conversation.
Right.
Parents. And that if we could improve that, that would greatly improve many things. And I don't think that the no devices is going very well anywhere, because so many parents need their kids to have devices for various reasons. Right. And it's become a need, if you will, given what's happening in the world, in the country. People want to have access to their children. If something happens, they want to be able to reach them immediately. And you can't blame them, but we do need to make sure we implement, and you should implement protocols and expectations in your classroom about putting up those devices. And we need to do that consistently in every classroom. Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Well, how many of you would stay, given your experiences right now, and contracts will be offered in a few months? How many of you would return next year? Raise your hand. Okay, you put your hands up. How many of you would say, I'm out of here, Dr. Beasley. I'm gone. Be honest. Be honest. Though. I ain't talking.
That's right now.
So, thank you for hanging in here with Clayton County. It's not easy, but as you shared, we are getting a lot and trying to get a lot of things right. I do know from my perspective and what I observe and what I hear that we do need parents to really be engaged with their children and understand the loss of instruction and the loss of opportunity that is occurring when they are spending so much time on these devices, and how they impact what's happening at the school and all of those physical confrontations. We need parents to help us, and that's why we have the Village on Patrol. So parents can step up and help us monitor these schools outside the perimeter and the interior of our schools. Because as you well know, we can't do it all, but I will say it's important that we have processes and routines to look at the data and to be addressing. And so do your teachers, do you see student voice opportunities and very active SGA, where students are actually engaged in working to better their school? See, those are things that you should see. Are the students encouraged to be a part of clubs and extracurricular activities? Because the more students you get engaged in extracurricular activities, the more likely or the less likely they'll be involved in all of these other nefarious activities that can occur. So there are certain things that we can do to address discipline directly and indirectly. And as an administrative team, as a faculty and staff, those are the things that we should be doing, is everyone taking ownership of the hallways. And all eyes, when that bell rings, you gotta cut off instruction, you gotta get on that door. And every staff member has to do that. That's not one staff member's responsibility. That's every staff member's responsibility. When I was a principal of high school, and I have been a principal of 4 high schools, but I was a stickler for that. Because I knew that if kids were going to do right, we had to be there. They needed to hear from us and they needed to see us. And I made sure they heard me. They had to. They had to. When I say clear the halls, I meant exactly that. Clear the halls. When I say get to class on time, I meant exactly that. And they need to see you everywhere. Everywhere. I'll tell you this, you can't be lazy and do this job. You gotta have some energy, don't you? Yeah, you gotta have energy. And so I want to encourage you, those of you that have shared about Lovejoy, we're going to follow up. Because we want you to have a better experience. And you wouldn't share those concerns if they were not troublesome to you. Those of you that are having a positive experience, please continue to have a positive experience, and always don't hesitate to share what we can do to make that experience even more positive. And help us. We need help. We need others to know how we're not a perfect school system, but we're trying to create a positive environment for our kids to be successful. And we want you to know that we are here to support you. We want you to do what you have a passion to do. I want others like you to decide, I can be retired, but you know what? I want to come back. And for you to come back and say that you're actually loving it, that is such a blessing to hear. And so we appreciate you for being here, because our children need us. And I'll say this, nobody's going to come in this community and save our schools. Nobody's going to come in here and save our children. If we don't, and I'm encouraging families, if we don't step up to the plate and become teachers, who do you all think will teach our children? See, we talk about, what are y'all doing about the teaching? And it's not what are y'all doing, it's what are we. Who in your family has decided to become a teacher? I ain't got 1,000 folk in my house to become teachers. But all of our families have got to say, we need educators. We've got to, Sean Mama did her that way. Sean Mama called me, Dr. Beasley, what can they do to get her to become a teacher? I tossed it over to Alicia. Alicia, what can y'all do? We got too many pathways for her to become a teacher. And now she's in the classroom, hopefully getting a salary too. Yes. Oh, good, that's important. But you all, this is important. We need families, and I say this to families, that if we don't produce educators in all of our families, I don't know who's going to teach our children. And if you don't think that that's important, just imagine a generation of young people. You think you're challenged today. Imagine a generation of young people who don't have the benefit of great teachers. And so we've got to really do what we can to not only prepare individuals to become teachers, but to recruit and to retain teachers. And so we need you to help us get the word out that we have teaching opportunities. I'm not saying to go and tell people that it's just, it's like heaven in Clayton County. What I'm asking you to do is let them know that if you're having a positive experience, share that with them, because we need them. I wish that all of our kids were perfect angels, but the reality is they are not. The reality is that they will not all be. But the truth is, most of our children do pretty good every day. Yeah, they do. They they do. We got a few knuckleheads. But when you have individuals such as yourselves who identify who they are and build that relationship with them, even they come around. And all of us have those stories where you had somebody who just appeared to be very contrary, but you build that relationship with them and eventually they come around. Why? Because when they know that you care, they will come into that classroom and they will meet and exceed your expectations. It doesn't mean we don't need parents to do their part. Yes, we do. It doesn't mean that we don't need administrators. Yes, we do. It doesn't mean that we don't need our department and grade level chairs. Yes, we do. But it's amazing what happens when you take out time to have that one-on-one conversation with them and build that rapport with them. I made it a point whenever I had a student who had an issue, it was always step here, let's have this conversation. Not in front of everybody, one-on-one. I know children have changed since the 90s. But while they have changed, they really hadn't changed. Because they're still children. They're dealing with issues sometimes beyond their control. They're managing emotions that they don't necessarily know how to manage because they hadn't had the experience of living a long time to figure out how to manage those emotions in the best way. And that's why they need the benefit of adults to help them, figure out what they're feeling to the extent that you can and how to manage that so that they don't derail their lives. And we should help them be successful. Well, do you have any advice, any departing thoughts for us as you leave here today? Things that you want us to think about? I heard about the compensation. I heard about the extra incentives. I heard about the challenges at Lovejoy. I heard about our students and our responsiveness to those student situations, and about making sure the school is organized and not chaotic, and that's very important. So we hear you, and we're going to address those offline after we have this meeting. Anything else you think is important enough for me to hear so we can address?
Yes. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm Nina Shams. I'm at Stillwell. I'm a DES teacher, and I subbed in Clayton County for a number of years. And I think one thing that we have to do better at as Clayton County as a whole is holding our students accountable. And that's with grades, with behavior. If we say something and we have this good Clayton County rule book and what we expect, but when we say it and then we don't hold them to that, of course they're gonna continue to do things that they shouldn't because they know I can do whatever I want and I'll get away with it. I love it at Stillwell. I'm a TAP candidate there. I'm a TAP teacher there, and I subbed there last year long term, and that's why I decided to join TAP and do it full time. But as a whole in Clayton County, I've been to most of the schools. I know automatically what schools are holding the kids accountable for their actions and what schools aren't. And those are the schools I don't go back to.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, now don't laugh though. But mine is like, there was a survey that came out, I think it was maybe a month or so ago, about like potentially offering free breakfast and free lunch to the teachers. I filled that survey out, but I haven't seen any traction since then. So if that's something that y'all can address offline,
So did you not get a card for a ticket for employee lunch?
Today?
Did you get it?
I did. Talking about from yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. But
that was for the holiday.
That was for the holiday, but there was a survey that came out potentially about long-term access. How likely are you to eat breakfast? How likely are you to take advantage of the lunch if it was free? So if there's any traction, are y'all like that? Let me not say too much, then I don't want to mess myself up.
We'll work with Ms. Hamilton and follow up.
Can I say something?
I've been to several Clayton County functions since I started, and you all do a good job in providing food, which is really greatly appreciated. But if you all could be a little bit more conscious of people who don't eat traditional, Southern food, meat, and I don't see any variation. And there are people who have different dietary needs, and I had once, no, there was once when they did the social studies, they had Chipotle, and that was a nice, I'm vegetarian and vegan. So I don't expect crazy accommodations, but some kind of consideration and flexibility when you all provide lunches. But I concur. The free lunches, breakfast and lunches, those are some of those incentives that say, we know you don't, we appreciate you, even though we can't give you probably what everybody else gets.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, anything else?
I think one of the things that we should try to do as a district is keep being innovative. Because even though you can't match compensations of other places, if you create programs that nobody else has, like kids flying airplanes, it will focus more kids here on what they're doing. So we need to think outside the box and do stuff different to make our district stand out.
I agree. I totally agree. All right. Thank you. Well, thank you all for sharing today. It's been very helpful. And I hope you have a great rest of the semester. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. And we'll be talking to you again in the near future. Okay? Thanks a lot. Thank you all.